All right. So we're these workshop sessions in the afternoon. They go as long as it takes me to get through everybody's chart, and that's a journey because there's a lot of you. So I've got to take you through a lot of sets of information. It's a way in which you're also going to get the way the information impacts other people as you're going along. So it's part of your nice recognition process. I will do it in the order that I have it in terms of all the charts that I have stored. Remember what is important here about the premise, because it's the premise here that's so important for you as projectors. The fact is, as a projector, that you don't have the same kind of capacity to be able to recognize nuance changes in those connections that you have with others. You have as I described to you, because of the nature of your aura, because the aura is so focused, you take in this very deep conditioning level that goes in. It means that all of that conditioning can be very, very powerful. So when somebody gives you an invitation and the invitation is correct according to your strategy and authority, all you're getting is a sort of a larger surface entry point. You know, this is something that says, okay, this is okay. You can go in here. This is all right. However it's going to turn out. But in terms of the tools that you need to measure that as you go along, you know, if you're a generator and somebody says, would you like to have dinner? You go, uh-huh. You go to dinner and they say, you want this? You go, uh-huh, or uh-uh. And it's an ongoing process of affirmation of whatever your authority is. As a projector, it doesn't work that way. You know, it doesn't. As a projector, that invitation simply opens you up to that connection. And if you don't have tools, you can't tell really where that's going. And you can't tell when it's not correct for you. And this is one of the things to understand about what it is to be a projector and what it is to be with other beings. You're not here to be with somebody all the time. You know? This is something really to grasp about being a projector. You need your distance. You know, you can have a nice, long-term, healthy relationship, friend, lover, whatever the case may be, child, whatever the case may be. But you need to see that you need to have your space, and you need to be able to pull back, because if you don't pull back, you're being pulled deeper and deeper into the conditioning field. And again, remember, you don't necessarily have the tools to be able to distinguish when those relationships are getting to a point where you need to pull back. For example, the first thing that I was discussing with you that I'll share with you as I go through your individual charts. Perspective, the way you look at things. You get an invitation from somebody, you enter into that correctly, but the reality is, if you're watching your process, during the course of the time you're with them, you'll notice that there'll be a shift to your distraction. You're suddenly being pulled away from what's correct for you. And it's in those moments where you need to recognize you're being conditioned. And watch that conditioning. You know, because this is what it's all about. And being able to see the conditioning gives you a way out. Very hard for projectors to go like this. You know? It's very hard to say, I need your generating and manifesting, but not now. You know, there's this fear that you don't get it back. There's this fear that you lose it. You know, there is this deep, deep drive inside to hold on to, you know, that connection, no matter how you end up rationalizing that in your design. So it becomes very important for you to begin to see the way in which you're being influenced on an ongoing basis by those beings around you. And remember why we see this. Not to end the relationship. Because it's not about that. It's not about saying, this person is terrible for me and I never want to see them again. It isn't about that at all. It's about your potential to actually see them conditioning you. Now, you know, most people think that you need to have a solution. You know, let's stop the conditioning and so forth. We don't want to stop conditioning. The only time that you can stop conditioning is when you die. Okay? Conditioning ends at death. Until then, it's a part of our lives. And it doesn't have to be something that's negative. It doesn't. It doesn't. It can be the most fascinating thing in your life. I have an undefined emotional system. I find emotional people hilarious, even when they're the most screwed up people on the planet. You know, hilarious. Look at that person going through their wave. I mean, if you don't have something, it doesn't have to be your problem in life. It is what you learn. It's what you get to see. It's what you get to watch. It's what the movie is all about for you. It gives quality to your development as a conscious being. What's very important is that if you trust your strategy and authority, you will see that you have time to fulfill the privilege of why you're here, which is to be aware. It's just to see. So this is a seeing technique. It's a seeing technique. It's about allowing you to get to that place in your passenger consciousness where you're watching the conditioning rather than being lost in it. Because you don't have to be lost. When you notice that somebody is changing the way you look at things, your passenger consciousness is there to smile in those moments. Hey, look at this. Look what they're doing to me. They're changing the way that I'm looking at things. Isn't that bizarre? They're actually doing that to me. They don't even know they're doing that to me. And they're doing it because it's not their fault after all. It's just their design. They're doing that to me. And when you see that, first of all the dilemmas you have with these people stop being so personal. Because the way anybody impacts you leads to you as a projector going into your reasoning trip. And you go into all of this stuff about, what you think you recognize. Instead of just seeing. Instead of being out of the value system, how much are they fucking me up and why? And just seeing, this is what happens when I'm with them. That's all. Now, sometimes that'll actually be fun. Because remember, if you're being distracted in the way in which you look at things, it isn't necessarily bad. I mean, some people take you to your distraction and give you the advantage of having that counterpoint in the way in which you look at things. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with any of these things that happen to us. It's the way we interpret them. It's what we do with the interpretation and the way we turn the interpretation into action. This person did that to me, I'm going to punish them. Instead of, this person did this to me, they were helpless, so was I. Interesting movie. And if you don't like what they did to you, don't have anything to do with them. It's so simple. And it's not about they're a jerk and I don't ever want to see them again. It's that things aren't good when we're together, It just doesn't work. Nothing personal. Take your just doesn't work and put it with somebody where it works, and take it out of my trip. But it's not about saying to them, what lovers love to say to each other. If only you could be different, You could still be my friend if only you could be different. And, of course, that's not the point. And because projectors recognize that becomes their trip, right? I recognize that you're like that, and if you could be like this, then you and I could be friends. Or you and I could be lovers. And it's not the story. Look, the only time you're ever going to be free is if you're really free. And the only way you're ever going to be free is if you free everybody else. You free them all. They're free to be what they are. You don't have to take them home and screw them. You don't have to take them home and feed them. You don't have to take them home and look after them. You don't have to do all of that. There's no rule in all of that. What you can do is see. See. And then you get to see who's there for you, who isn't there for you. You get to see that those beings that are there for you, what happens? Where do they take you? And again, it's not about blaming. It's about discovery. It's about finding out how these things work. Look, the deeper and deeper you recognize mechanics, the easier it is for you to surrender to your life. Because there's nothing else, eh? I mean, it's not like the frog and the princess, There's nothing else. This is it. This is the movie. And all you can do is exalt the movie through your awareness. You're not going to be able to, change the script, and the script is written in your design, literally written in your design. Okay, so I'm going to take you through this process. I'm going to start with you, Alyssa, use you for a jumping off point here. Okay, so the first thing, we're looking at view. And in your case, you have a first color. So any of you, and again, if you're looking at the illustration, look to the right side of the illustration I gave you, and you're looking at the personality nodes. The personality nodes. When I look at the personality nodes, I'm looking at somebody's design perspective, the way you're designed to look at things in this life. Okay, so if you have a number 1 in that stop sign, okay, then you're somebody whose view is called survival. Now, number 1, when you're working in the number system from 1 to 6, 1 is always the most primitive, 6 is always the most sophisticated. So here, if you're looking at this first color, what you're looking at is a very, very primal need to see your way through survival. In other words, yours is a perspective where what you're looking at is trying to see who survives, whether you can survive, how do they survive, and all the tools that go with survival, which is looking to see what they know that allows them to survive, or what they don't know that allows them to fail. Okay? And it is driven by fear. Now, most people think of fear as a bad thing. Right? Well, there's no intelligence without fear. It's the way we evolved out of our immune system. Our immune system, being threatened by things, drove our intelligence to find a way to survive and to get around them. Okay? So if you have a survival perspective, what's driving you is your own fears, where you need the intelligence to know how to survive something. So the way you see becomes very important for you. But every single view that we have can be distracted. So when you get distracted and you go to the 4th color, you go to want. Instead of seeing what you need to see for survival, you're looking at all these people out there and what they want. In other words, you're not seeing yourself. You're not seeing your own survival. You're getting stuck in the other person's trip. You're getting stuck in seeing what they want, what they need, what their demands are, and you move away from your own survival. Now, that could be very threatening. You're on the way into the jungle with a friend of yours, right? You're going into the jungle. Now, you need your first color, right? You need your first color to be able to see how to survive. You need that gift. And yet at the same time, they got a mosquito bite and they're bitching to you about, their problem, and you get pulled into their transference about what they want and what they need, and you stop thinking about yourself, you stop seeing what you need to see, and you threaten yourself. And you put yourself in a situation where you can literally be in danger. So the most important thing for you to watch in your mental process is that when somebody's in your aura, how easy it can be for them or not to pull you into their trip. Because that's what it is. Pulling you out of your trip and pulling you into their trip. So the moment, because you're not designed to be in their trip, once in a while, that's the counterpoint. Remember, we're not here to get rid of our distraction. Right? It's just a counterpoint. But it gives us balance in the way in which we look at things. So every once in a while, when you're so concerned about your own survival, you do need to see what's out there. What's going on with other people. But the moment that you have somebody in your life who's, every time you're with them and you're talking to them, you're being pulled into their movie, and you're being pulled into seeing their problems and all that stuff that's going on with them, that's not for you. That's distraction. Okay. So distraction is something that is very, very powerful in that sense, in the way in which it operates in the life. Okay, the second thing, you have a motivation. Your motivation is guilt. Now, people, when they have that, if you're looking, personality, sun, earth, you're looking at the little stop sign, the color, and the number 5. If you see the number 5 there, that's you. You have guilt as a motivation. Now, look, it's not the guilt trip. That's nothing to do with that. Those people who have a guilt motivation, they're here to be motivated to fix things. Fix them. So this is a mind that is motivated to fix things. You see a problem, you're motivated to fix it. Now, when you're in transference, you're into hope. Okay? So those are the people in your life where there's a problem, right? And you want to deal with your problem. Okay, I got to fix this, I got to do this. Don't worry about that. It'll all turn out just fine. And the moment you get into that hopeful trip, you're being transferred away from what you're here for. Your mind's here to work on fixing things. So there's two things in your life. in which you can watch as a projector. Because again, it's not about eliminating it. It's about seeing it so you experience it, and it's about recognizing who's bringing it to you. Because you really begin to understand the nature of your relationship with the other that way. If there's always that person in your life that's pulling you into their trip, who are you in all of that? You lose your own ability to survive. If you're here to mentally fix things, which means you're here to help people fix things for them, the moment that you're into that hope transference, it's like the job you do, Well, they send you an email, I need help, and you say, well, I hope you get it right. It's like the other side of the story, right? No, I'm not going to worry about this. Let's hope that it all turns out for the best. And the moment that you see that, because it's watching, it's the most magnificent thing about our consciousness. We are here to be able to experience our personality and not be lost in it. So you can experience these moments where somebody brings you into transference, whether it's your motivation or your perspective, and you can actually see the mechanism at work. It's who's watching that matters. Because it's the deepest essence of you that's watching that is aware of that. That begins the whole process of transcendence. Okay, Christy. Your view is wanting. You're the exact opposite. Don't sit with her. Don't sit with her. Keep your space. It's one of the weirdest things that happen is that we're always attracted to opposites, right? So, your perspective is to see what they need out there. This is what you're good at. You're here at seeing the need. The moment that you're into your own survival story is the moment you're in trouble. Because this is not what you're all about. Then you end up getting totally lost in fears. Because it's the fears that are underlying in the survival view. And when it's not your view, that distraction becomes unhealthy. You start worrying about yourself instead of seeing what everybody else needs. What everybody else needs, you're a transmitter. This is what you're here to transmit. You're here to transmit what your perspective shows you. So you're the exact opposite. When you get pulled into your own trip by somebody, that's the moment that you're being pulled away from what's correct for you, and you get caught up in all of the fears that arise out of that. So the moment that you're into your true perspective, you're out there seeing what they need. You're a 6'2", transpersonal profile. You're here to look out. You're here to see the other, and you're here to see what the other really needs in that sense. That's part of your perspective. So again, watch carefully those people that are trying to pull you out of that perspective and push you into looking into your own trip and being worried about yourself and your own survival. The motivation, it's funny, it's exact opposite. Motivation that you have is hope. Hope is an incredible thing. Hope with awareness. Hope with awareness is sitting by the river and knowing that something is coming for you. There are many things in your life that you must never pursue. Never. It goes to what it is to be a projector. You're waiting here for the invitation. You're waiting for things to come to you. And it's not about dumb hope. It's not about buying a lottery ticket and hoping you're going to win the lottery. It's not about that kind of thing. It's about realizing that there's certain things that you must never fix. It's not about making things happen. If you've got her 5, your mind is all about how do we fix it? But in your case, how do we fix it? It's a real drag. Because it's not for you. This is... Yes, it's not for you. This is not where your mind belongs. But you also need to know what to focus on that will happen for you. It's one of my favorite expressions. An old Chinese general about his enemies said, I'm going to sit by the river and wait to watch the bodies of my enemies float by. I don't have to fix anything. I don't have to go out and get them. I don't have to destroy them. I don't have to conquer them. All I know is if I sit here long enough, I'll get to see what I need to see. If you sit long enough, you get those things. So it's also that thing about your mind, about not pushing your mind to look for an answer, but waiting and knowing that the answer will come for you. That's how the hope works for you. So be very careful about these people that are pushing you into the fixer. Think about how you fix this. The same people that focus you on your personal survival. So it's watching those things, just watching them. And watch what happens When somebody steps into your aura, when you're watching your mental process, and that's where you go, you know right away the magic of mechanics, because you get to see it. You get to see the innocence in the other person. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know they're doing that. They're just being people. And all of a sudden you get to see the underlying mechanic that this person or that person are not the right people for you because they're taking you to a place where you don't belong. So you can meet one of these people, invitation, and everything seems terrific, and then you're sitting there and you're having a conversation, and all of a sudden you watch this happen. You know right away, be careful. This may not be the best situation for you to be in, despite the fact that it was okay to enter into it. You're entering into it to be wise enough to be able to assess it. I want to be able to protect all of you as projectors, to understand that by watching your mind, you're going to protect yourself in these very complex environments where you can be easily pulled away from what's correct for you. And because everything about you is recognition, if you're in distraction or your motivation is in transference, you're not able to recognize correctly because it's not really your theme. It's going to be unhealthy for you to try to recognize what your survival needs are, when in fact that's not what you're all about. Your recognition is geared to seeing what other people need, what's out there for them. Right? So you really get to see how people are going to impact you in that way. Okay, this is for Eden online. And let's see where we start here. Possibility. Your view is possibility. I love possibility, probability people, because this is the great argumentative binary. Eh? Well, it's possible. No, it's not probable at all. So don't tell me it's possible. You have this, in everything, God, spirituality, moralities, all of this. There's the endless argument between the people who see possibility and the people who see probability. The possibility people say, yes, but she could grow up to be a ballerina. And the probability people say, are you kidding me? Look at her. She can't even walk straight. She's going to be a ballerina. Yeah, it's possible she can be a ballerina. Okay. You're a possibility person. And what that means is that you have to be very, very careful. Possibility is great for the spirit. It's great for the spirit. It means you can look out in the world and see possibility in anything. In anything. But don't turn that, and you're a 35, so watch out. Don't turn that into an expectation. The expectation that you think it's possible that somebody can change their life, doesn't mean that they're going to change their life. And if you identify with that possibility, you're going to suffer dearly. The other thing is that your distraction in this life is to be pulled to probability. Okay, so here you are, you're a 2 color, and those forces that can enter into your life can pull you to the 5. And the moment they pull you to the 5, you stop being possible, you start being misprobable. The moment you're misprobable, you're ready to bet your life. I know this is going to happen. I know this is going to work. I know this is going to be terrific. I know this is going to be a winner. I know this is going to be a great relationship. I know. It's all probable. So be very, very, very careful when you're watching, your own mechanism to see so clearly that stay with your possibilities. It's the way you're intended to see. And of course, again, it's very good for the spirit. You can see possibilities in others that they can't see in themselves. And that can be wonderful for them. But the moment that you're seeing probability in them is the moment that you're probably full of it. And you're going to create problems with them. Because in fact, the probability is unlikely to be there. So you have to be very careful. The second part of this is your motivation, which is hope. And this goes very nicely with possibility. Possibility and hope are wonderful together. So this is you. There's a possibility that the gods are going to smile on me, and you can always hope that that's something that's going to be true. This is absolutely perfect for who you are. But the moment that you're in transference, you're into the probability that you can fix it, that you can make it happen. That you can actually do something about it instead of seeing that it's a crapshoot. You're here to see that it's all a crapshoot. You're here to sit back in your possibility, hope, mental system and see, yes, anything is possible. Absolutely anything can happen. You can hope for, you're the silver lining to show up at any moment. All of that is terrific. It's great for the spirit. Don't get caught on the other side. And these are the people that are going to depress the hell out of you. I mean, if you think it's possible that the aliens are going to pick you up tomorrow, you can live with that. Just don't be convinced of it. Don't take Kool-Aid or any of these things. It's okay to be into your possibilities, but don't get stuck in them. Because the moment you get stuck in them and think they're a probability, you crash. It's the same thing with hope. Hope is so beautiful. Because hope is about truly, if you're correct, you have that feeling inside of you where you know this will work out. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to meddle. I don't have to stick my finger into it. I don't have to do anything to it. This thing is just going to be there. I'll wait. That's the magic of what hope can bring. But the moment you're into fixing, for a projector to get into fixing mode who's not self, wow. You really think you recognize all those things that you think you can correct and fix. And you get stuck in all of that stuff. It's not what you're about. So stay with your spirit, your possibility, and you're a hope person. All right, Eric. Possibility. You're a possibility person, Eric. This is your perspective to see the possibilities. Think about what projectors are for. Your guides. Right? This is what projectors are here for. So one of the things that you have to recognize is that your whole guiding mechanism is rooted in the way you see and think. If you're a possibility person, you're here to guide other people to see possibility. This is what you're good for. And again, the thing to understand about possibility is that it can really raise somebody's spirit while at the same time not getting you stuck in, predicting that something is actually there or actually going to happen. It's possible. The moment you get into probabilities is the moment that you have problems. Same story. You can't expect that you're going to operate without any of these things being impacted. It's the whole thing about being in auras. Is that constantly in the auras of others, these attributes that are there are influenced in one way or another. So to be able to see, if you're a possibility being, to be able to see that suddenly you're talking probability. I know it's going to happen. It's this thing and it's going to work this way and that's the way it's going to go. Wow, what that does to you. Because it's not. And then you begin to suffer. And then you go through the projector trip. The bitterness. I was certain it was going to be a probability. I put all my resources into that. Or I gave you all my love and blah, blah, blah and all that stuff. And then it doesn't work out. And then you're bitter. And then you're deeply upset. And then you go through all the recriminations, the self-flagellation, the inner recognition that drives you crazy. And all of that because somebody has had a subtle impact on the way in which your mechanism works. That's why it's so important to see it. So stay with your possibilities. Motivation is innocence. Innocence. Now, innocence is the sixth color. And everything about innocence is that it is without motivation. Without motivation. The transference of innocence is called desire. That's the third color. So the moment that your thinking is being motivated by desire, the desire to lead, the desire to be in charge, the desire to be the boss, the desire, all of these desires that are driving you, you're totally in transference. The reality is for you is that you're not here to be motivated. You're not. You don't need motivation. You don't. When I look at your design, because I don't know you other than this first time looking at your design, everything about your power is about, as a projector, waiting for people to recognize that you can benefit them, because you can. you're an alpha, you're a transmitter, you have all of this potential in you to be able to get other people to see things, give them the information, all this kind of stuff, but you're not here to be motivated to do so. So the moment you're motivated to help somebody, you're in trouble. You're here not to be motivated by that. You're here to respond to that in the sense that you're here to react to that. As a projector, there are going to be those that recognize that you can help them, that there's something you can tell them, that there's something that you can do for them, but they have to come to you. They have to get that out of you. That's the only way that that's going to work. So you have to be very careful about not getting into the leadership trip. I'm the other way, by the way. I'm a third color. I'm motivated by desire to lead. So this is me. There's nothing I can do about that. And when I was not self, when I was totally incorrect, I was into the innocence trip. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to be responsible for other people. I don't want to do this. I don't want to work at all of that. The hell with that. I'm not motivated. I was in transference. And of course, it made a mess out of my life. I mean, serious mess out of my life. So, and I'm going to stay out of your aura. Because that's the way it works. And you'll notice this when you look at relationships, after this whole weekend or whatever, what you'll get to see is so many people in your life are exactly opposite you. I mean, exactly opposite. And this is, it's not a curse. It's a test. It's what consciousness is all about. You really get to see it when you've got somebody in your life that's pulling on that. You don't have to go there. You just have to watch it. But you really need to see that, the moment your mind is pushing you to take charge is when you're really in trouble. So be very careful of these people that get you into that desire, leadership, all that kind of activity. All right, Felicity. Okay, this is the power view. Okay? This is third color. Okay? And power view is very interesting because the power view is about being able to see winners and losers. So, where are you? There you are. Okay. It's about winners and losers. This is what you're good at. You're good at seeing the winners and the losers. This is something that is so important to what you later can offer to others because you see it. Now, the dilemma for you is that the distraction is the distraction to the personal view, which takes you out of seeing the winners and losers and takes you into your own trip. Okay? And again, I'm the opposite of you. Okay? I'm supposed to see things through my trip and my trip only and not be concerned about the winners and losers. You're here to be concerned about seeing the winners and losers. This is what you're all about. So you're the kind of projector that's here to help those out there that you can see those that are failing. Remember, as a projector, success is a big thing. And the vast majority of human beings, within their own perception of themselves, are relative failures. Most of them are unhappy with their lives, unhappy with their material success, blah, 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 all these kinds of things. So it's something that's inherent in you that is there that you can see. So it's very important for you to keep score. Eh? You're a keep score person. Eh? Keep the score. Okay, one for them, one for me. Okay? Keep score. Eh? Very good. And the moment you're not keeping score, you're really in trouble. Okay? So those people that get you out of the scorecard, those are the ones that are really trying to mess you up. Don't look at me. Don't see that I'm a loser. I don't want you to see that I'm a loser. I want you to get into your own trip, and leave me alone. And of course, that's not what you're about. You're really here, to see what's going on out there, which means that you can help people in terms of, their struggle in this world, in terms of what they need to be able to do to get by. And again, that will depend on ultimately what you've mastered, what kind of knowledge base you have, what you, in fact, how your knowledge base relates to the winning and losing that you're going to see based on that. If you're into this kind of stuff, you see winners and losers in terms of their level of consciousness. You see those that aren't making it, those that can, so forth and so on. The motivation is desire, so you've got the double. You're really here to lead. Eh? This is one of those things. You're here to be driven in that sense by desire. And ultimately, when I look at your design, because you're one of these deeply unconscious people, right? The only definition she has is mental definition, mental projector, ajna to the throat, undefined 1156. So, your ideas are everything. And your ideas are never for you. Always remember that. Your ideas have no value to you. They have value to the other. And this is how you gain power. Your way of guiding is guiding others through ideas. And being able to guide them with your ideas to help them become winners rather than losers. In other words, that's really, what your capacity is all about. So you have to be very careful about what I went through as not self. That is, not wanting to take the pressure of being a leader, and you're very open. So there's all this conditioning in you that says, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not really the leader. Everybody else has been messing me up in my life and blah, blah, blah. It's really time for you to be the leader. And again, it is about seeing people in your life who have constantly taken you away from that role. Because you have all of these forces in your life that have denied you what is your possibility, which is to see things in the right context and live your life out according to that. Because after all, this is what we're all about in the end, is about being able to live out our awareness and to be able to provide out of our design, what is there for us for the other. Right? So important themes for you: desire and power, right? To lead, to see winners and losers, to keep score, to help people get on the winning side. This is what you're here for. All right, Gisela, online. And view is survival, and the motivation is innocence. So we're dealing with a 1 in the perspective and a 6 when it comes to the potential in awareness. Okay, survival. Again, survival. Think about how profound that really is. You look out in the world, and what you get to see is how you can survive. It's one of those ultimate themes that are out there. You've got 2 billion people on the planet that live on approximately $2 a day. You've got a horrible world out there. You've got an enormous suffering that's taking place on the survival plane. And think about the way the not-self works. The vast majority of human beings, 1/6 of humanity, is going to have survival perspective. Approximately 1.2 billion people will have a survival perspective. And of those 1.2 billion people, the vast majority are going to be in transference. So they're not going to be into their own survival at all. Which is why you've got so many human beings that are on the edge. And so many beings that are literally incapable of looking after themselves and providing their survival. And understand something. If you can't see the way to survive, then you give up your authority. You just do. You make somebody else your authority. You pray to a god to provide for you, or you look to a society to provide you services. You look to friends to take care of you. It goes on and on and on. You give up your authority because you can no longer see survival yourself. All you're seeing in the transference is the wanting that's out there. It makes for a lot of angry people without solutions. All these angry people out there who want and want and want, and they don't have a solution. What do? They strap on bombs and they blow themselves up in places. And, there's all of this, giving up in essence. So very important to understand how powerful a view really is. So for you, Gisela, in this, you need to see that the moment you're being pulled away from seeing things in terms of your own survival and in survival for others, you're really lost. And the moment that you see, the lack in the world, what people need and all that stuff, the moment you become Miss Save the Bloody Planet and all that kind of stuff, you're really on the wrong track because you're deeply into distraction, because that's not your thing. Those people that are legitimately fourth color, the people that have a wanting perspective, yes, they're here to save the world. They're here to point out that there's want out there and suffering and need, and we should really do something about them. At least 1/6 of us care about those beings, if I can put it that way. But that's not your job. Your survival perspective. Stay with what's yours. And again, all you're doing in this exercise is watching it happen. It's all you have to do. It's the most fantastic thing to experience. You just watch it happen. There you are, and somebody steps into your aura, and all of a sudden, you're all into seeing the horrible problems in the world, and, what people don't have and they need, and suddenly you're ready to join some NGO and spend the rest of your life in service helping some third world tribe get water, And in the meantime, your life gets lost. Let everybody do what their job is. Everybody's got a differentiated way in which they're supposed to function. We've got all these cliches out there about we're all supposed to be like this, and we're all supposed to feel compassionate and empathic and all of that stuff. Well, it's not true. It's not true. It really isn't. We all have a very unique way to operate, and a unique way to operate that can be manipulated by other forces. So you need to see it. When it comes to the motivation, which is innocence, the 6 colors are like 6 lines, like any 6 in human design. They're already something very sensitive. They're already something at the edge. Innocence is about the future as much as it is about the presence. That is, what it really represents is, I don't have to go out and do anything. I just have to be. That's what innocence is. Innocence is, I don't need a motivation. That's not what I'm about. I don't need a motivation. I'm just here. And of course, out of the 6, we get themes of role model, leader, trust. And you see, it's these beings that are innocent, that are simply there in their life, that other people look at them and say, oh, maybe you can help me. Because they're the true role model. So it's something to understand about the way in which your mind works. It's not here. It's not here to be motivated. And the moment you get into leadership motivation, I'm going to change everything now. I'm going to fix it all now. I'm going to do this, and you're going to do that. And we're all going to get there and all that stuff. Oof, forget it. You're here to be an innocent survivor. An innocent survivor. Look after your own stuff, And then as in 1858, you can just wait for those delicious moments where that person steps up to you because you're the innocent survivor role model, and they say to you, I need your help. Could you tell me what to do? And you give it to them right then and there, because that's what you can do. You give them your judgment, you provide them with the correction, you can do the things that are correct for you, but that can't be your motivation. You can't be concerned about everybody else's survival. You cannot be concerned about being motivated to look after all of these things mentally. You're here to be an innocent survivor. So when you see other people pushing you away from that, you know who you're dealing with. You do. And you can take your distance. Once you understand what people are doing to you at that level, you get to see right away, this is unhealthy for you. And it's not personal. Because they honestly don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. Right? It's just mechanisms. Janice Keys? Probability. You're on the other side now. You're here to see the probabilities. You and I go to the track, I'll bet with you. Okay? Probability person. Now, probability doesn't mean it's an absolute, obviously. It means that you have the capacity to see the tendencies and where they're actually going. So it's a real gift. So when you get into possibility, that's when you're in trouble. Anything's possible. Anything's possible is not your thing. So funny the way we all work. If you're a possibility person, it's the only way you can think. Everything's possible. This is a great world. Everything's possible. You can wake up tomorrow and your life's different and, blah, blah, blah. You wake up tomorrow, you lost 30 pounds, you look terrific, everything's wonderful. It's just going to happen. Probability people are very different. Probability people say, that's not likely. So there's a real realism, there's a pragmatism that comes with being a probability person. So be very careful of those people that get you away from that, yeah, this is actually going to happen, to those people that get you into anything can happen. Hey, Jesus is coming tomorrow. I invite him for dinner. It's possible. right? Sure. You're a probability person. You have an answer to that one. So interesting how people can change your whole direction in life. I mean, you have to understand this mechanism that I'm describing to you, this has been going on in your whole life. So there you are, a probability person, and somebody is changing you over, distracting you to possibility. And as not self, you then end up making a decision. You say, oh, wow, is that really a possibility? Okay, I'll go with that. And how destructive that is. You can only go with what you see. You're there to see the probability, you stay with the probability. The motivation is guilt. You're a fixer. Okay, so don't be a hoper. You're not into hope, you're not into possibility, you're on the other side of the coin. You can see the way these things work. Yeah, it's deeply pragmatic. And you're a 5 anyway. So it's underneath the surface for you to be practical and, to stay with the practical. Being a fixer is something you have to be very careful with. You can fix others. I mean, you have to see that the mind doesn't solve our problems, and it can't guide us. But our mind is our outer authority. It's the greatest gift we have to the other. All projectors are here to provide a service to the other, whether they like it or not. That's how you get by without working in life. You've got to give something back. There's got to be something there. Okay. Well, this is what you give back. So one of the things you get back is that you get to see what probability can be worked on for somebody else. In other words, you get to see what they can fix. Okay, it's helping them fix. All right, and the way that you do that is through the guilt mechanism. Conditioning, seduction, all of these things. You can fix it, you can do that. But that's what you're here to do. It's not about you turning that in on yourself. Again, projectors, do not do that to yourself. And turn your recognition in on yourself. You drive yourself crazy. Then you end up with full-time probability inner fixing, which never works. It just doesn't, because the mind can't find the answers. So you end up being depressed, and you end up being very uncomfortable with all that stuff, and, all of that. So, as you're an unconscious initiator, somebody steps into your aura, you can really do some fixing. I mean, you really can, as long as it's correct for you. And those people that pull you away from it, it's telling you right away, watch out for these relationships. Remember, you don't have to end them. Because what it's really saying to you is, if this is the way it works, then I better not make mental decisions. Because that's really what it's doing. It's saying, look how easy my mind can be pulled over to this. That suddenly I'm in this conversation with this person and I'm already agreeing, to some stupid possibility that's based on hope that has absolutely nothing to do with me. And you make that decision. Yeah, I'm going to go do that, right. You wake up the next morning and all hell breaks loose because it's awful. Because that's not what it's all about. So the thing about all of that is not about saying, oh, I want to get rid of that, I don't want to be like that, blah, 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 or I don't want that person doing that to me. It isn't about that. It's about being wise. It's about seeing what happens. It's about recognizing those beings that do that. It's going to change the way you look at them. First of all, you get rid of the blame. You see it exactly for what it is. And then you can make the decision based on invitation whether you ever want a second coming of that. If they come back the next day and they call you up and they want to be with you, you're a projector. The nicest and most powerful thing that a projector can do is say no. I mean, most projectors, when they find out about invitation, are like Pavlov's dogs. You start opening the tin and they're salivating, Invitation. Oh, me? Yes. Just because somebody offers you an invitation does not mean that this is right for you. It just means that the process is correct. It still has to do with your authority, wherever your authority happens to be in your design. I mean, it's the only thing that is going to protect you in that. Invitation just means that they're on the right foot. That there's some aspect of them that has recognized you, but don't be a sucker for all of that. I mean, don't. Saying no. People have trouble with no. Saying no is delicious. Eh? No is a really healthy thing. Not now is a really healthy thing. Give me a break is a really healthy thing. Half of humanity is emotional. If you're emotional, you got to say no before you say yes anyway. You have to. Can I be with you? Not right now.
I have to be with you.
Not right now. No, call me tomorrow. Let me process this. Not now. It's always about, wait a minute. And it's something to grasp. Somebody has an invitation for you. Hey, if it's not coming out of your strategy and authority that you're really ready to say yes to that, don't have anything to do with that. People always think, particularly emotional people always figure that they're going to miss something. See, splenic people are always in the now. So they have this sense that they miss nothing. Moment by moment by moment, they're in the trip, right? You're an emotional person. You go through your wave, and there's some character saying to you, well, be patient, go through your wave, get to the other side, get to the place of clarity. And while they're moving through the wave, they're going, yeah, but I could be doing this now, and all that stuff. You don't miss anything. Is one of the great myths in this life, is that you can miss anything. You can't miss anything. You're going to get what's correct for you as a projector when you're correct. You're going to miss anything. And if you're an emotional being, that processing that you're going through, if you're not 100% in that process, you're not getting it. I mean, being emotional is very beautiful. No joke, eh? It's a really beautiful thing. I know that from the outside looking in. An emotional being and going through their wave motion, there's incredible depth. And most of them don't pay attention to it. They go from the high to the low, and they remember the sound bites. They remember the high-low, They don't remember this line that moves between that high and low, in which everything is there. Any of you that are emotional here today, for example, you're not going to remember anything about today with any real clarity. You're not. So don't expect to. You're emotional. You'll get a little bit of it tomorrow, and a little bit of it the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. You're an emotional being. You're operating in a wave, and every place in that wave is another place of taking in and assessing information. So you have to wait until you go through your process. And if you're waiting for the process to end because you're thinking you're missing something in between, you miss all the beauty in the process itself. Because what you're getting to see is the same thing seen through different filters, which means there's a depth of awareness that is there. Most human beings are so full of self-loathing that anytime anybody says, hi, it's like, wow, you talking to me? Really? Wow, that's really nice of you, Yes, would I like to do that with you? Wow, you're asking me? Wow, isn't that nice, It's human beings. I mean, it's amazing how low the esteem is of a human being. You know that in lovers, right? Why do you love me? Is that not the most insane question? I mean, not only is it insane, it's so incredibly perverse. I mean, it's so perverse it should be banned, right? There should be a law against it, right? I don't love myself. I think I'm a jerk. How come you love me? Because that's what it's saying. What it's saying is, how could anybody love me? You love me? Wow, you're really something, right? It's okay that you beat me and abuse me, but you love me, right? All right, John. A survivor. Survival view. Interesting that the motivation is need. And it's very important about your whole mental process. Because everything about the other side of your mental motivation is fear, right? To be driven by fear. And here your mind is based on being driven by need and need only. And need, what is necessary. When you're thinking about what is necessary, you are absolutely correct. But the moment you get away from thinking about what is necessary and you get into thinking about all the things that are out there, all the things that need a foundation, all the things that could be frightening, all the things that could be solidified, all that kind of stuff is the moment that you're really lost. You're only here to think about what is necessary. Now, it's relative, obviously. It is relative to what is correct for you at any given moment. But the great danger for you, is to get into a motivation that is driving you to find endless answers. This is not what you're about. You're not here to find all the endless answers, because you can end up on a journey, and you're an organizer on top of that. When you're 1762, you can organize all of the unanswered questions of your life and leave your mind, lost in all of that, instead of focusing on what is actually necessary for you. And when you couple that with survival, this is your fundamental theme, is to be able to see your way on this plane, to see how you survive. In seeing how you can survive, you're also seeing how others can survive. Be of benefit in that sense to them. And in understanding that you're motivated by what is necessary, you can also translate that into outer authority by being able to deal with people and being able to focus them on what's necessary. Most human beings can't. Most human beings... You have some objection to that? Most human beings have an open head center, 70% of humanity. So they think about things that don't matter, endlessly think about things that don't matter, endlessly. And you're Mr. Think about what's necessary. This is what you're about. You're a defined head center. So you have this incredible power to be able to inspire others. And the only way you can really inspire other people is you inspire them with what's necessary. It's like the story between possibility and probability. You're Mr. What's necessary, not anything that can be thought about. Strictly what is necessary. Funny, too, because you got the channel of the thinker. It's a real trap. All right, Jean-Pierre. Your view is probability. Probability and your motivation is need. If you're here to see probability, you have to notice how focused and rigid, in a way, your looking is. In the examples that I'm giving you, I'm just pulling out the theme. I'm not being absolutely specific. You can see that you have, in those places that I'm referring to, you have activations in gates, in lines. So if you want to refine what I'm telling you about your particular perspective or your particular motivation, when you have your opportunity, go in and look at your lines and add that gate and line information, and you can begin to see where you're really honed in that sense, in terms of what you're really here to look at, or in terms of your mental process. So here, for example, in this probability view, you're here to see the probabilities that are related to the gates that are there. For example, in this case of this chart, the nodes are in the 38th gate and the 39th gate. Hey, this is provocation, it's fighting, it's individual, it's artistic. In other words, you're here to focus on the probabilities that arise out of that, not possibilities. And again, these are very different people, and they're always having arguments with each other. Probability people always end up with possibility people as friends, and they're always arguing. Well, it's possible. No, it isn't. Yeah, it's possible. No, it isn't. It's possible. No, it isn't. And it's an endless thing that goes on. So if you're a probability person, don't get stuck in the possibility argument. That's the worst thing. It's the same thing with the possibility people. So pissed with the probability people. Don't tell me that it's not likely. It's possible. I don't want to know that it's not likely. It's possible. Let me keep my fantasy. There's all these things. So here, in this particular case, we're dealing with probability. You're here to see and not waste your energy. After all, you're 5, in terms of your lines. So, you're here to be practical. You're here to be pragmatic. Don't get lost in all of this new agey possibilities, because it's a killer. It really is. The only people that really love the new age are possibility people. No, really. They love the new age. It's always possible. At any moment you could have a satori. At any moment you could have a transcendent experience. It's possible that any course can change your life. It's possible that you go to a new Facebook page and you're illuminated. It's always possible. There are all these... It leads to great spirituality. These are the God freaks, eh? It's possible, after all. Funny creatures. Anyway, your motivations need to be motivated by what is necessary. What is necessary? Here you are, the necessary probability person. And you can tell right away what that's talking about. Don't deal with all the extraneous nonsense. Don't deal with those things that are unlikely. Don't waste your energy on those things. And then you can tell right away from the people that step into your life, and you're watching your personality go through its numbers with them, and all of a sudden you see it shifting. There you are with your pragmatic, fixed, this is what's necessary, and all of a sudden you're thinking about all of these things that are not necessary, that aren't. And of course it clouds your whole thinking process, because your thinking process is rooted in, look, deal with necessity, nothing else. If you focus your mind on what's necessary, you're going to achieve excellence with your mind, which means that you can then point to others and indicate to them what is necessary. It's very simple. It's the same thing with probability. It's about working with people where you see the probability. This is where there's great confusion in the possibility-probability axis, You have somebody come into your life, and they distract you to the possibility, and you think it's possible to work with them. It's possible to help them. It's possible to be effective for them. And again, when projectors waste access to energy, to manifestation, to generation, when it fails, it all leads to bitterness. And it makes it even harder to do it the next time. It just does. It just makes it more and more difficult. And it's so easy, because these are mechanisms. It's not like, if you're somebody like me, that it doesn't, affect you anymore. It's still there. I still watch distraction, motivation transference. It's always there. It's the way we connect with each other. But it's not about falling into the trap. It's not about turning that into a decision. Excuse me, turning it into a decision. This is when you get into trouble. The moment that you're being influenced on the mental plane, influenced in the way in which you see, and then you take that and you turn it into a decision. You turn being a possibility person into being a probability person, and you put your money on the horse, and you lose it all. Because it's not going to work for you. Or you're sitting there and hoping that everything is going to change, and slowly but surely you go hungry, because it isn't. Because that great job isn't about to show up, and so forth and so on. It's really about accepting the limitation, and accepting the limitation, being able to exalt it. It's about seeing, not changing it. Watching this movement in you. Seeing who brings out what part of you. There's going to be people in your life that only reinforce what is your true perspective and motivation. And there's going to be people in your life that go back and forth with you. That sometimes they're there, and sometimes they're pulling you in another direction. And there's going to be always people in your life that never do anything else but pull you away from yourself. You have to be aware of it. Okay, Kevin. Your view is personal. You know, you're a double six, so you know you've got a personal view, and you've got a, pardon me, you're a 6-3, and a desire for motivation. So the personal perspective, I find it fascinating. I mean, I have that myself. That is, you're really in a way disconnected from the world around you. I'm very aware of that. In other words, I don't see the world the way other people see it. I think you can tell. You know? I mean, I don't see the world. I don't see life the way other people see it. I see it through my own process. That's how I see the outside. I only see it as a result of my process in relationship to the outside. So it looks very, very selfish. In other words, it's very self-absorbed. It's very self-contained. It's why distraction isn't always bad. That is, your distraction is to take you into that, out of your own trip, to see what other people are doing. You know, to see what's bothering them, to see the ups and downs in their process, because basically what happens is that you move away from the personal and you move to power, which is seeing winners and losers. I mean, it's why I always loved athletics. You know, as a kid, it was great for me. You know, I would distract into power, and then I could root for my favorite team. You know, winners and losers, keep score. You know, get really upset if my team lost. You know, I can remember as a kid crying, you know, my team lost. Oh my God. That's transference for somebody like me. You know, keeping score and going to hell because your team loses. You know? And yet at the same time, it's the counterpoint to being so into your own thing that you only see things within your own context. I mean, if I only saw the world strictly through what is my way of seeing, I would never see that everybody needs help. You know? I would never see what's going on out there because I'm only seeing through my own process. So it's very important for you to have that perspective, which is unusual and different. But at the same time, as I said, with all of these things, the other side isn't something we want to get rid of. It's something we just simply want to be aware of. If you're always being distracted to the power trip, the winners and losers, the keeping score, you know, this was a good one and this was a bad one and this was, you know, all of that stuff, then it becomes a problem. The other side of that is that the motivation is desire. If you've got a desire motivation, you're here to go through a process of developing the skills that allow you to lead, because you're here to lead. And the thing that happens to desire people is that they get transferred to the innocence, and the innocence says, me? Lead? I want to lead. I want to deal with all these people and their problems. I want to look after them. I want to guide them. I don't have anything to do with that. You know, that's the other side of the coin. So, you know, it's very, very easy to be pulled away from desire. Is quite a heavy thing. You know, that motivation that's driving you, you know, to take control, to do your leadership, you know, to do all of that, you know, and there's this force on the other side that's saying, no, you don't want to do that. It's too much trouble. And you got to deal with all these people, and they have all these demands, and why should I step into a group? Because the moment I step into a group, I'm going to have to lead them. Otherwise, if I don't lead them, I'm going to hate being there because it's pointless, you know, and all of these things. Eh? So it gets into a real, you know, it's quite a trip. I guess one of the most fascinating things for me about what it means to have a desire motivation is when you look at the world around us. Think about it. The vast majority of the planet's in transference all the time, right? So we know that if we were going to have our natural leaders on this planet, that they would all be third color. All of them. That's our natural leaders. They're third color. But because everybody's in transference, what we have is that all of our leaders are actually six-color people in transference who think that they're supposed to be leaders, when in fact they should have absolutely nothing to do with leadership, which is why we've got a planet that's poorly led. In other words, we don't have our natural leaders, we don't have our natural probability people, and so forth and so on. It's no wonder we don't have answers, solutions to the kind of problems that we have on this planet. It's a no-brainer. Everybody's in transference, so they're not seeing in a way that's correct for them, that fulfills their potential. They're not motivated in a way that's correct. Imagine that most of the people on this planet who want to be leaders, that's not what their natural motivation is. It's not. They're here to be innocents. They're here to be the ones that say, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to change your taxes. I don't want to take responsibility for all that. And legitimately so. So think about all our leaders. They're all in transference. None of them are true third color beings. They're not. They're not. Okay. Louis Bob, I don't think you're here right now. I think she's got to wait for the translation, but I'll do that anyway. Your view is possibility. And everything about the nature of, again, having this combination. This is another one of these combinations. This is possibility and the motivation of innocence. Right? So here you are to see, all of those possibilities that are out there, which can be so beautiful. Again, everything is correct in its right place. I mean, everything. It's not like any of these are good or bad. I mean, recognize that. There's just difference. I mean, that's all it is. So here's somebody to be a possibility. See all the possibilities, all of them. And you see, seeing the possibilities is something that's very enriching. I mean, it really is when you think about it. These are people that can always, you hit that plug, Randy? These are people that can always avoid, the sadness in life. They can. They can always avoid sadness with knowing that there's a possibility that it'll end. There's a possibility that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and all of these various things that are possible. And again, your motivation is innocent. So these are the kind of people that end up wanting to be leaders. Hey, here's somebody with a 6-color motivation. They're here to be innocent. This is their thing. I'm here to be innocent. I'm here to be without motivation. No agenda. No agenda. Now, anybody that's got a 6-color personality, sun, earth, these are right-minded beings anyway. They've got no agenda. It's not an agenda. It's just being here, taking it in. They're just here to take it in. That's what innocence is all about. Innocence is just about, let me just take it in. I don't have a plan. I don't need to do this or that. I don't have a motivation. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a reason. It's just my mind being mind. Nothing else. And you see, if you can live that, it's terrific. The moment you get transferred, and suddenly you're, Miss Desire, right? I'm going to change the world. These are the people that scare me the most. Eh? These are the 6s to the 3s. Hey, they're supposed to be innocent. Mind your own fucking business, Be by yourself. Go off there, isolate yourself into your innocence. Very nice, Don't get involved. Don't try to change anybody else's life unless they show up and beg for it from you. Hey, don't. And what do these people do? They want to change the world. They're on every street corner with a placard, We've got to fix everything. We've got to change the world. We've got to make everything better. I'm going to lead you. Follow me. Which is what they do to their lovers, their children, their pets, they are constantly into the, I am going to lead the world and I'm going to take them in the right direction. Okay. Yes, it's possible for you. Anything is possible. This is the way you see, but don't you dare do anything about it. It's really nice for you to be able to see the possibility from your innocence. Because after all, the 6 is about the role model. The role model is really our future. Everybody living by their own authority, you need help. You go to somebody because you recognize something in them, and you ask them, and they deliver whatever that is. I mean, that's what the innocent does. The innocents into their own trip have no agenda. They're the best people to ask for help because they have no agenda. They don't. They're not motivated to help you. They're not motivated at all. They're just there And because they're just there, they can be deeply sensitive because they see, in your case, all these possibilities. They can see your possibility too. Just don't necessarily believe that 100%. Don't think about possibility. It's not 100% business. Either is probability. Okay, Mark. A power view and innocent motivation. I love all these innocents. These are all the people that, again, they're so messed up. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to change that. I'm going to lead the world. I'm the one. And of course, leader and follower are the same thing. So you also have to see these innocent people who are not supposed to be motivated, that they're in all these trainings. I'm learning how to be a leader. These are the people that are eternally into leadership training programs. They're here to be innocent. It's not what their movie is about. They're not here to learn how to lead. It's not what they're about. But that's what they do. Okay, you got a power view. Power view. Winners and losers. Keeping score. I love these people. This is what makes newspapers. This is the newspaper business. Really. This is the television news business. This is all of those things. This is what the power view is all about. Who's winning, who's losing. 19% of the population is this, and blah, 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 and, they're watching all the games, and these people made money, and these people went bankrupt, and this show was a success, and that person was a failure, and so forth and so on. This is Celebrity Watch. This is all of these things that are there. Who's in, who's out, who's up, who's down, who's over, who's under. It's all here in the power view. So if you've got a power view, enjoy it. Enjoy it instead of being pulled away from it. Because again, if you're pulled away from it, you're pulled into the personal. And if you're pulled into the personal, you lose all that. You don't get to see that anymore, and that's what you're here to see. This is somebody that's here to keep score. We need people keeping score. The thing that I always worry about is that, here's somebody that's supposed to keep score, power view. Chances are they're in transference, right? So who's keeping score? Nobody's keeping score. Really. We've got a sort of superficial, poor example of it because we have all those sixes that are, distracted down to that view. So they're trying to be the ones who can keep score, but that's not what they're about. That's not their gift. That's not their talent. And those who keep score for us keep us aligned to what's going on in our world. We need these people who keep score for us. That the buses are going to run on time and the train's going to be late and your plane's tomorrow. And, you need all of that. And, of course, they're enormously powerful in looking at somebody else. This is the great comparative vision. You're always seeing people in a measuring reference. So these are people that can be very class conscious, can be materially class conscious, socially class conscious. You're at the lower end, you're lower middle class, and this person is upper, and, blah, 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 always looking at the measurements. Stay with your measurements. On the other side of that, you have an innocent motivation. Now, that's an interesting combination, right? The innocent scorekeeper. Don't you like that? A scorekeeper without an agenda. They don't care who wins or loses. As a matter of fact, the moment they care about who wins or loses, they're really in trouble. Because that's not what they're all about. They're here to be the innocent scorekeeper. They're here to look at things and see, they're up, they're down. And for no other reason than that's how they see. And they're great when somebody comes up to them and says, who's up and who's down? Because they can tell them right away. And again, when you're living out, remember, it's all within the context of being a projector and what you're here to recognize. If you're here to be the innocent recognizing the score, that's where you're going to get your power. It's where you're going to get your recognition. It's where you're going to get the reward. It's where you're going to feel complete. It's where you get rid of the bitterness. It's where you find success. And you see, the moment that is distorted, all that goes out the window. You stop being the innocent. You stop keeping score. You end up with all kinds of problems. And you're bitter because nobody sees how terrific you are. that you can't fulfill what is your particular potential on this plane. Maria, there you are. Your view, here we have wanting. Your view is wanting and your motivation is desire. To see the want. Now these are people that have social responsibilities. And in your case it works nicely, right? With your very tribal dynamic in your design. So, there is a part of you that is looking out, and that part of you that's looking out is really getting to see, what's missing out there. You're getting to see what's lacking, and you get to see what's lacking in many, many different ways. It's not just simply material want, for example. It can be the lack of education, the all kinds of variables that are out there in terms of what can work and what can't work for the other. But it's deeply pointed in that sense at the other. I mean, it's a 4. So it's about themes of brotherhood and sisterhood and community and network and all of those things. So you're not here to focus on what is lacking in your life, because that becomes a real problem when you turn that in on yourself. You're here to see the want in the world around you. Remember, this is your perspective. Now, of course, what happens is that if you're in transference, you get into the fear story. And the moment that you get into the fear story, survival, you get into being concerned about your own personal survival, and you lose your gift of being able to see what is necessary out there, what others are lacking, and what you can do for them. And of course, again, that leads to the fact that you're a desire person. You're here to lead. I mean, you're not here to sit on your ass and do nothing. You're not here to be an innocent. You're not here to say it's somebody else's problem. If somebody says that you have to save the world, you have to take the burden on your shoulder, go out there and save the world. And basically what you have to do is take that on your shoulder, be the leader, and be able to tell those people what it is that they're lacking that they can find, their want. Because again, that is what you see. In order to be a leader, you have to go through what I was just making fun of, from the other side around. You have to learn how to lead. Everybody has to learn how to lead. You go through the following process. You find that thing typical of projectors that you can master, that you can then turn into, something that you can guide others with, and so forth and so on. But very, very important for you to understand that. The moment you see yourself standing back, that moment where you played the innocent, because I know I'm like you, right? The moment you play the innocent, you're in trouble. Because you're not. You've never been innocent. Eh? Never. No. Okay. It is true. Never been innocent. But it's real nice to try to get over to the, Watch that one. Okay. Meg. Meg? She here? There you are. View, probability. You're a probability hope person. Now that's a bag of hammers. Hey? That's a real bag of hammers, right? You look out in the world and you see the probability and your mind's going, oh yeah, but I was hoping for something else. Right? Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what happens, eh? You get into the total transference of that is, it's a probable, well, I better make it a probable. Because if it isn't going to be a probable, I'm going to have to fix it because that's what I see. So, that's an interesting mixed bag that you have there. Now look, it's a thing that people see in their designs all the time. They see a configuration or this or that, and they want to put the stamp of, oh, this is a difficult one. Do you know what I mean? People are always looking for that in their design. Oh, this is terrible. This is difficult. That person up there has it so much easier, and I would like to have their design. And don't ever get somebody else's design. You don't ever want that heartache in your life. You really don't. Look around you. You don't want to have anything to do with it. You really don't. Stay with your own shit, okay? Because everybody else's is worse. I'm telling you, it's worse. At least yours you're used to. You're familiar with it. Theirs, you don't have nothing to do with that. Okay, so probability. You're here to look out in the world and see that. Now what happens to you is that there is this natural tendency for you to really like possibility because it suits your hope. Or when you get stuck in your probability, getting transferred mentally to the fixing. In other words, there's always going to be this crossover for you between the two. It gets very interesting in terms of the people in your life. You're going to find that there are those people that align you absolutely correctly, and then those that confuse you at both ends. So it's about you being aware about it. It isn't anything else, because obviously you're not going to be able to change it. I mean, you're not. What you're here is to be able to see that certain things that are probable actually happen. You know? It's not about the fixed expectation, and again, you're a 36 pointed at the 35. Right? You have a heavy expectation trip. Right? If I do this and this and this, I'm going to get that. All that kind of expectation stuff. This is the most dangerous thing for you, because as a probability person, there is an assumption of expectation. Okay, and then that can really hurt you, because the moment that the probability that you're looking at doesn't work out, then your mind has trouble with that. Right? So the easiest thing, because you asked me some questions before. Right? Your hopefulness is not for you. I mean, this is the whole thing about understanding our minds. I've got a beautiful mind for you, for all of you. I got a shitty mind for myself. I mean, it's not like I listen to my mind telling me what to do. I remember what that looked like. It was a catastrophe. I mean, really. It was awful. And it wasn't nice for other people either. I mean, it just wasn't nice, period. But if I put my mind out here as outer authority, it can be of value to the other. You have to understand this about your hope. You're here to bring hope into other people's lives. It's not that, that hope for you, is the thing that is going to sustain you in this life. The only thing that's going to sustain you in this life is, honoring your emotional frequency. You're an emotional being. And as a 40-37, you have to see something very basic about your life. It always will begin and end with the quality of your deal. Make good deals. You're a bargain person. Make good deals. Enter into things when you know what the rules are. If you don't know what the rules are, you cannot play the game. And then you're really going to get messed up. If you know what the rules are, then you can. And then you can be hopeful. Then you can allow yourself, to enjoy the kind of mind you have and see that you're here to raise the spirit in the tribe. I mean, this is what you're about. You're here to raise up their hope level. And, you're a 4-6, it's all of this community, your network, your associations. I mean, basically, you're here to give them a sense that it's probable that you can raise their spirit. Show them what you see as the probabilities and fill them with hope while you're doing that. That's what you do on the outside. When you can do that on the outside, that's when you're going to get rewarded. The moment you go into transference, though, on any of those levels, yeah, and you can't. You can only hope that you may be wrong. No, I'm serious, because that's what probability is like. Probability is 96%. It's not 100%. You know what I mean? It's about, you can hope, oh, Jesus, they're going to hit a tree. I know it, And you hope that they miss the tree. And if they don't miss the tree, don't punish yourself, because after all, you're here to see that. Doesn't mean you can stop it. Yeah, right. All kinds of probabilities. All right, let's take a 10-minute break.